A?
Yes. Yes. Keep doing that. A, B, A, B.
Hell Hydra?
Yeah, whatever. I was taking a nap right now.
Hey, that's fine.
Yeah,
Fine.
no, yeah, the sleeping
part of the
dragon.
master,
I get
all
it.
part of the master plan.
All part of the master plan. Yeah. No, I am kind of sad about that because well, I couldn't attend the Iowa incident. It's
Well,
something that was
well-
kind of like a white whale for me anyway.
So why don't we just start this and then actually have a conversation meaningfully? Meaningfully? Yeah, that works.
Meaningfully?
For me. Yep, works for me.
Wow. Okay.
All right, start it.
I'm not your puppet to command. Dance, monkey. Welcome to Personal Flash Paper, an Infinity podcast with a focus on beginner topics in the game of Infinity. On this episode, the hobby desk, the rule of the episode super jump, an interview with Remote Presence' own Joel Vaughn, and the main topic, gaming and what it means to you. With your hosts, me, Rob, that Baker kid.
And me, Ryan.
Yeah! So, we're back for a little bit, or from a little bit of a hiatus because,
back
well...
From
yeah,
outer space.
with a silly look upon your face.
Yeah, there you go. Thank
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, so with the 4th of July holiday, it was kind of crazy. Ryan took vacation, and work was insane for me. And then Ryan came back in town, and work was insane for him. And
It
so,
still is.
yeah.
I have a deadline. I gotta flip a whole lot of switches tomorrow, and it's not looking like they're gonna get flipped.
Well, you
Yeah.
better. Is there a way that you can increase your whip skill?
It is not my whip. It's my influence that I have.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
I've got other people that have got to click their buttons so that I can click all of mine.
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen because your influence is just crap.
Nope. And believe it or not, people in other countries don't really care what I tell them to do.
I live one town over, and I don't care what you tell me to do. My wife is upstairs, and I barely care what she tells me to do.
You started this
I'm married to
episode,
her.
and I told you to do that. So
Well, there is that.
obviously- Yeah.
Yeah. So, but no, in all seriousness, life gets hectic. Your life gets hectic. Our lives get hectic. And in all honesty, that's kind of the main reason for the main topic in my mind is gaming and what it means to you. So part of that for me is the hobby and the hobby aspect, the hobby desk. My construction monstrosity is coming along. It is right at 7 foot. I built a wall on a concrete foundation, and I've got my airbrush station up. It's not wired in any way, shape, or form, but the sink, which is a massive 24 inches by 36 inches, by 10 inches deep, is set. It's got the plumbing is this weekend, and then electrical wiring will be probably a couple weekends from that. And I'm gonna be in it to win it with contrast colors and making my own contrast colors and just getting back into the hobby. That's my main thing. Ryan, you've had a chance to use some of the contrast colors from the Games Workshop, and why don't you talk about that for a little bit?
All right. So I did get a chance to use the contrast colors. I have 6 of the colors. I literally just kind of grabbed some red, a yellow, a blue, some of the like tan colors and a black just to kind of see. And I had a Krakow Renegade that was just white. I had sitting there. It's not even clean. It's not done anything. It's just kind of been primed white. Is the way I got it. And so I was like, I'm just going to throw these colors on there. My criteria was I'm just going to throw the colors onto the areas. If I get sloppy with the paintbrush, I'm just going to leave that and go over it and just see what it does. Outside of the hair, they were all just one color. So I just put the yellow on this, the red on that, so forth. And to be honest, I'm not displeased with the work I got out of it. There's some experimenting I want to do. I wanted to use some zenithal highlighting and then throw some colors on there to see what it does. But what I think I'm really going to do is when Wildfire comes out, do all my O12 using contrast colors and then just a highlight on there, maybe a shadow. We'll kind of see how my next round of experiments go. But really, if you're not a painter, if it's not the strength of your hobby, it's not something you're great with, they actually work really well. I mean, I think the cleaner you are with your strokes, the more control you have over your paintbrush, the better quality you're going to get out of them. I really think, and what I'm probably going to do is get like a light and dark of a color. So I'm going to get like a light red, and a dark red, and so then maybe I'll put like the light red over first, and then like just like the dark red of the resources, just to increase that contrast a little bit, and then go over with actual paint highlight. That's just part of my next level of experiments.
Yeah,
But
when
you know,
you talk about the next,
they're expensive, but
oh yeah, yeah, that's no joke. When you talk about the next level of experimentation, for me, I've been looking at the zenithal highlighting that you're talking about, but instead of just doing black, gray, white, actually experimenting with different color type theory of primers. Because there are companies out there that make their own primers. You know, James Wapple talks about his shade priming technique, and I think that there's an untapped wealth of experimentations, and you learn so much from just doing your own experiments that you can come up with your own stylistic way of painting models in a relatively short period of time. And I'm pretty I'm pretty psyched about this entire contrast paint line, the experimentation that you're going to do, because you're going to talk to me, I'm going to get ideas, I'm going to talk to you, you're going to get ideas. And I think that that's a really good thing to share amongst this community.
yeah, I think I just did the black. I think I don't remember, black Templar black, over the weapons that are white, and I mean I was like, yep, that's really pretty good. It's kind of what I wanted to look for the weapon look like.
Yeah, that
So
Karakot Renegade, just with that black weapon wash over white primer, that was really good. You throw some,
yeah.
Edge highlighting on that weapon, and you're really good.
Yeah, I'd probably just kind of pick out maybe a little bit of brown here to kind of, represent the stock, maybe some silver or something on there, and I think it'd be all right. Now, I will say that, so the zenithal I'm going to try is probably just gradients of gray up to white. Now, you can do color, but I think that you're gonna need to have a lot more knowledge in color theory to do that, because if you take a yellow, put it over a blue zenithal background, I mean it's gonna
You're
go
getting
green.
green.
It's
Yeah.
gonna green. So you're gonna need know a lot more about that. You're gonna have to really kind of have a specific idea of what it is you want it to do. But I mean, it is options. I just think that's probably going to be for what the contrast paints are designed for. The purchaser of the contrast paints, who is somebody who's not the best in the painting and just kind of wants to get some nice colors quickly, I think that's probably going to be beyond the scope of what most people are going to use their contrast colors for, and probably really more than they were what they were made for.
Oh, right. And I think that you hit the nail on the head, so to speak, in that there is no magic bullet. This is a product that Games Workshop is designing to get the Gray Horde of armies painted to a tabletop level. This is not going to be, Crystal Brush, Adepticon, $10,000 prize winning paint. Now, I'm not saying that you can't do that, but that's not what this product was really intended for, in my mind.
Yeah, but I think that's pretty been. I mean, we've covered that ourselves, and I think most people know that. But I just, we have started. We, as in I and Rob, will shortly start more experiments on contrast, and then of course we will let you all, the listeners, know our thoughts. But as it is right now, if you're not the best painter, if it's you want to get some just colors on there, then I think it's actually a great tool, and definitely something that I think you should look in to picking up. I will tell you that they are the normal GW bottles that are a little taller, so Be careful
Beware.
of the tipping of the bottle over. If you have a palette that has like little cups in it, the best thing you could do is probably take a little eyedropper or something, pull some paint out, drop it in there, close that color up, and move on, just to keep yourself from, dumping that stuff over.
Yeah, because how much is a bottle? It's like $8
Yeah, it's like
US. Yeah. So, $8 US, that's, a chunk of change when you buy 6 to 10 of them at a shot like Ryan did. So,
Well, I bought 3 and 3, so it wasn't
oh,
that
3 and
bad.
3. Gotcha.
And I
Yeah.
have
So,
and I have account at our local store, so I don't see that bill. So
yeah.
so, but
Yeah.
I also got some other hobbying in.
Yeah. What'd you get?
Yeah, I made myself some bots.
You made some bots, some
I
chicken
made some
bots.
bots. Yeah, I did make some chicken bots. So I will post that picture up. I really like the Hakazlum chicken bots. I've always really liked that look. So for my Akari, I've decided that's what I'm going to use. So I currently have 6 of them
Oh,
total. Yeah.
damn.
Um, so, and one of which I've converted, and that's my Flash Pulse bot. So he has no, if you're familiar with the chicken bots, he's got no weapons on him, and I just gave him 2 of the little antennas basically on his side, so it almost looks like ears. Then there is my Ford Observer bot. So he has basically, this looks like a little camera that sticks on his side. And normally there's a gun that mounts like underneath basically the front nose of that. And I've actually moved that so it actually mounts under on the side, under the camera, I'm going to say. So that's my Ford Observer bot. I made a TR bot, and what I have done on that guy is there's a little missile canister that goes on the side. That's on there. But I've actually cut the HMG away from the alpha seed from one of the starter boxes. And I've put that on there. And then I've taken the ammo belt and ran it up there too, so that it looks like that. But then the biggest thing that I have done is I have taken one of those and started dissecting it and cutting apart and made a rushi.
Oh.
Now the rushi, yeah, the rushi is a bigger silhouette model than the other bots, and then than what the bot comes with. Um, so I needed to bulk him out, so I gave him longer legs, right? So his chicken legs stand up a little bit higher. But then what I've also done is I had some old Nomad Spitfires that I've cut, and then I've actually made some other pieces. So he basically has 2 arms. Now, if you're familiar with the nice classic RoboCop movie,
The
there's
ED-209.
yes, the ED-209 mech, and that's what it looks like. It's very similar to that. It was a little flimsy in the leg area. I need to kind of bulk out his legs or actually secure them a little bit better. I don't think it would survive a extended period of game playing and handling. So I'll green stuff that, probably put some other supports in there. But overall, I really like the way it looks. It actually has the look that I really wanted it to when I kind of went into this whole process.
Of making the rushi.
Yeah, of making the rushi. Unfortunately, I actually want to try a list with 2 rushis and a Luduan, which means I need to make at least 2 more that are that big for it to really work. But we'll see how that works.
Nice.
Yep, it is. It's pretty cool though.
Yep. So, what lights do you use?
To repaint.
No, to paint.
To paint with.
Or under, I guess it would be a better description. Because right now I've got 3 hobby. Well, they're not hobby. They're construction clamp lights. Yeah, clamp lights that you can buy at like Home Depot or any home improvement store. That they really put out a lot of light, but it's not the easiest light system to work with.
All right, so I had moved my hobbies in our home office. My wife and I had like an L desk, and she was at one part of it, I was at another part, but we never sat at the desk together anyways. So I moved and recreated her desk on another wall, which actually had my hobby desk on it, and moved my hobby desk over to the other part of the L. So I basically have the entire L, one of which is basically a workspace or a gathering of random papers space. And then the other is the hobby space. But when I did that, I have some cabinets that are above that section, and I actually ran some LED light strip up there. And so I turn that on or plug that in, so that gives me kind of an ambient light. But then I have two Tautronic desk light pieces. They're $30 on Amazon. I have two of them. They are very, very good lights. I actually have the two different levels. I have the older model and then in the newer model. And they're LED generated. They can produce a lot of light. They're lightweight. They have a metal plate to the bottom of it that adds them some weight. Now, what I've also done is I actually have a travel hobby space, and one of them is actually mounted in that. It actually folds up and collapses together into a wooden briefcase thing. It's not complete, but it actually functions the way I need it to function anyways. But that's really the light I use. Plus I have the normal light, overhead light in my office.
Yeah. And so those Tautronic lights, I've got two of them as well. They're not on my work desk right now or my hobby desk right now because my hobby desk is under construction. But I was just wanting to make sure that I'm, understanding what you're using so that I can see if there is a better product out there. I don't think there is, or at least I haven't seen anything on any of the painting forums or, the miniature forums that I belong to on Facebook or other social media. So if you're listening and you've got something that is different than the clamp lights that I've mentioned or the Tautronic lights that Ryan's mentioned, throw it up on the Facebook. Get it out there so that you can share your wealth of information with us.
Yeah, I had at one time have some normal desk lamps and went out and purchased the brightest LED bulbs I could get. Those worked really well, but what I found was it was more of a direct light, and I would have to move them, or as I got older and my eyesight changed, I would have them right next to my head, and they would kind of get in the way and kind of bother me. Now you can build, and I've seen it done several times. I've not done it just because I don't think it would function the way I would want it to. But basically, what's called for lack of a better term, is a light halo. Basically, so you have two flexible strips that have LED strips attached to those, and it goes from like the far left corner to the close right corner, and then another one that goes the opposite, so from the close right corner to the far, or close left corner to the far right corner, right? So it makes basically this arched X, and then the idea is you paint and hold your model in the middle, and that gives you an all-around light. While I think that would work great, it seems a little unwieldy to work with. I mean, you could unclamp those so they're not there all the time. You're also positioned to hold your hands in a certain spot of your desk all the time. And as I've been known to do, as I'm working along, I'll reach over and grab something, and I know I would knock those all the time.
Yeah, and then you'd be setting up that or resetting that halo all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it would probably produce a very good light. Now, it's going to produce the quality of light based on the money you spend in the strips of LED, but it is definitely something that you could think about to produce a really good light source, or a really good all-around light source that would illuminate the whole model you're working on and really cut down on the shadows, which means you have to then be also more conscious of your painting of where the highlights and shadows go, because you're not going to have them naturally on model.
Right, because you're not going to have that shadow of light source over right shoulder. You're going to have that halo effect because it's light coming from every direction.
Yep, it's a halo.
It's a halo. Halo, halo. All right, well, with that little musical interlude from me, I think it's time that we leave it to somebody that is a little bit more talented in the musical department. How about a musical break? All right, that was some hot music, and now
that's my jam.
That's my jam. So let's talk about events. So friend of the show, Will Thompson, dropped the news that Iowa Incident is going to be taking a small little nap this year, and it's not going to happen. So with that being said, there's much, sorrow in the Black Lotus Syndicate, and there are numerous
Just
other events that are coming up.
settle down. There's not
Oh no,
sorrow in the
you
Black
guys
Lotus
are in your
Syndicate.
death throes. I know it.
Yeah. I had a feeling. Will has talked to us quite a bit about it. Just he hemmed and hawed. He did not want to not host it. He really wanted to do everything he could, but really, it's probably best to take a break because you want to put on a good event, right? You don't want to half-ass it, which I don't think Will would do, but I think he would burn himself out in order to get it done the way he really wants to get it done. Um, so I don't think it would be beneficial for him, but it made the most sense to just take a breather, reset, and then come back. So I don't, we were all like, yeah, that makes, yeah, it's, Infinity, although we all love it, it is a hobby, it's a game, it is not life, unless you happen to work for Corvus Belly, um, which I'm pretty sure none of us do.
I don't.
So, I mean, I'm
And I saw
okay.
you in the
Yeah,
office
I'm
today,
okay
so I
with
know
him
you
taking a
don't.
break.
Yeah, totally.
No, I don't.
And
And it was funny because for the last 2 years I'd been trying to go and hadn't been able to do it, and I was actually able to do it this year, and it was close. And he's not going to do it, and we're like, oh,
Yeah, it's been a white whale for
oh
me. It
well.
just it falls in the weird time of year for me because I've got, as I hold my ReaperCon 2018 pin as I'm taking some show notes and stuff. ReaperCon is an event that I like to go to with another group of guys here in the Kansas City area, down in Texas, and the wife has limited me on the number of traveling events that I can go to. But if you are lucky enough to be going to Gen Con this weekend, I'm sure there's plenty of events after that or at that
Wait,
event.
you're going to Gen Con?
I wish I was going to Gen
Oh, I
Con.
thought you said you were
No,
lucky enough to be going to Gen Con. I was like, wait a minute, you didn't tell me you were
no.
going to Gen Con.
If you are lucky enough to go to Gen Con, then you are probably going to be partaking in those events. But I was fortunate enough to do a small little interview with Joel Vaughn of Remote Presence to talk about his event, Renegade Open.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool idea. I mean, it's kind of funny because I know he started working on it after Mission Critical. We started talking about something after Mission Critical, and I know that there are several things that Joel wanted to do that aligned with the things that we thought of, both in totally separate occasions. Um, so it's interesting to see what Joel has to say on how that works. I always like talking with Joel. If you don't know Joel Vaughn, especially if you don't know him in person, it's really funny because he can really come off as very rude, and it's not his intention because
Oh no,
he
it's
apologized to me like 3 or 4 times. I'm just laughing at him. I was like, Joel, I know you before, like if this is Mission Critical. He's like, and I'm like, you're not offending me in any way, shape, or form. He just, the way he speaks, the
it's very
level,
direct and it's very leveled.
yeah,
It's not that it's monotone in any way, shape, or form because he has inflection in his voice, but it's just he the way that he speaks, the way that he conducts his voice, that he is super intelligent, and I don't say things a lot around him because I feel like I'm an idiot.
I hear you have a co-host, by the way.
Oh, I've got two co-hosts in
Yeah.
here because they were about ready to break down the door.
Yeah, no, and that's one thing I really like listening to Joel because I think that the way his brain functions, and the way he talks about that and he was able to share that with people through an audio medium is really pretty interesting, and it really makes me think on a different level and think about things in a different perspective than I would normally have.
Oh, totally. Let's give that interview a listen.
All right, let's go.
This is Joel Vaughn. Sometimes you may remember me from a podcast that you used to listen to when we still recorded and we still edited. We have multiple episodes that I haven't edited because I'm a lazy piece of shit that's been dealing with a bunch of other stuff.
You are busy. Let's just put that out there. You're busy. I'm busy. All God's creatures are busy, and so there is things that you have to do to keep your sanity. And if editing is not one of those things, then you don't have to do it.
And I do have a specific set of hobby time. And the thing that's been important to me with hobby time over the last year and a half, and as episodes have not been made as much, is actually trying to foster community growth or just a healthy community. So we run events every other month here, roughly. I do learning demos, things like that. And that seems to be what is, for me, more important that I put my time into. And one of the things that I've been working on lately, and I really appreciate this opportunity to talk to people about this,
Of course.
is that I've been working on a narrative system for an event that I'm going to throw. And I think that you and I are really invested in this idea of creating a robust and exciting and different narrative experience, different from what ITS is, because
Right.
ITS is so focused
Well, and that's what I was going to say is ITS
one
is
go.
Oh, ITS is so focused on the aspect of a winner take all. I'm
Yep.
not saying that it's
Yep.
a zero sum game, but that's its main focus. And you and I have played multiple games at the Wapaka and the Mission Critical, where the narrative is something that is really, not a winner take all. It's very much that community building aspect. So, what you got
Uh,
going on, Joel?
It it definitely can be, and I think when it's done right, it should be. I think that you and I would agree, and a lot of people, even very competitive players, would agree with Infinity, that the coolest parts with it are those narrative or thematic moments that happen in a game. When you have a ninja pop out behind you, and then he moves into CC and cuts down somebody, or he goes to cut down that Fusilier, and the Fusilier hits him back, and you're both laughing about it or talking about it later. Those kind of moments. I really liked playing Infinity when I started, when everybody was talking about, like, I'm a Eugene player, and then they would tell you about what they identify with in Eugene. So those they're also kind of called fluffy moments. I don't know if that community is specific, but fluffy moments, thematic moments, things like that. So I'm working on a Renegade narrative event. I'm going to give you the what, when, where, and then how much real quick, and then we'll start talking about it, and I'll hit you up with the what, when, where right at the
Sounds
end as
good.
well.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would say is, if for any reason you miss any of those and you need those details, you can DM me on Facebook, or you can DM Rob Baker and he'll push you my way. I assume in either show notes or on Facebook, whatever, you'll throw in a link to any of this stuff.
Oh
But
yeah. Yeah, I'll definitely throw something for the Facebook community so that way we can drive, any questions that the Joel Vaughn may have directed towards him so that way you can be notified.
yeah, and one of the things that I want to stress with this is that there's a danger when you're creating events like this to get like overly ambitious. I've done a ton of pen and paper and role playing and things like that. I've created a bunch of my own stuff. Done a bunch of project management with my work as well. So I didn't want to get too ambitious, but I still wanted this to be something that would be very exciting for me to create and me to run. Crux of it is that I want all the information for this event not to feel overwhelming, but also to be accessible for you. You move, say, table to table, or as you're working on certain things within it. I wanted it to be dynamic so that it can feel like there's a possibility of other things unfolding. It's not just this static, like, go and do the thing. Okay, now read the narrative story to me. Like, I want it to feel like you can do things that will either carry over or impact what's going on.
So Joel,
I recognize that's super broad strokes, and I'll get into that like in a little bit.
okay.
Let
I
me
was
give
I
you
was
the who,
going to
what,
ask
where, when,
because,
and then
well,
hit me
when you
with your
say that
question.
you've done a lot of pen and paper
Yeah.
sort of things, what type of stories have you, gone with? Did you play a lot of D&D? Is there a lot of role playing background that drew you to running a narrative event? Why a narrative event at Renegade? And what is Renegade, by the way?
Yeah, let's do the who, what, where, and when, and then hit me with that question. Um, so, what is Renegade? Renegade is a relaxed 2-day narrative. We're going to have 3-hour games. Next game with the person you're playing with. Part of that is also because there's going to be extra rules. So, to allow you to digest those and to enjoy the company of the person that you're playing. 3-hour games. 2-day event, as stated, going to be in a hotel that does have a bar there. So you're welcome to drink in game. These are going to be story missions. They're going to have spec ops. They're going to have some faction teamy elements. They're going to have light RPG like elements. We will get into all those in a second. It's November, Saturday 23rd and Sunday the 24th. So it's the weekend before Thanksgiving. I recognize that's not necessarily ideal depending on people that have family stuff. Renegade is actually a bigger event that has 40K and other things associated with it. If this goes really well, we might not use Renegade next year. I also am using this to get feedback about different elements that are going on in this. Afterwards, I'm probably going to send out either, what is it, MailChimp or some straw polls, just asking people for basic feedback so we can make this better.
Okay.
And I know that you and I also talked about like post-mortem thought dump after this to see if this is a system that maybe you or other people wanted to adopt. Um, it's in Minnesota. It is in kind of Twin Cities proper. There's a bunch of outlying suburbs as there are with, Chicago, anywhere else, right? It's at the Crown Plaza, Minneapolis. You can find it in the show notes, or go to renegadeopen.com. The event itself costs $35 for the 3-day pass. I said it was a 2-day event, being Saturday and Sunday. You can do open gaming Friday night as well. So the room will be there. There will be tables set up. So you can do meet and greets. You can do open gaming. I'll be there to hang out. If able, I'll probably try and get in some chill gaming as well. So the $35 gets you the 3-day pass to that. And this event itself is $10. And that was because I didn't want to do a big prize pool. This is going to be a really, really, don't expect prizes from this. I'm probably going to run a few $100 loss for this event just because I want to buy a bunch of stuff and set it up in the game itself, get that stuff going. And I want it to be really low financial investment for people that want to come do this about it and go from there.
No, that's a good point. With the narrative event that was, mission critical, get your ass to Mars, there was a massive prize pool. And that was not what the event was about in any way, shape, or form. It just happened because people were like, dude, let me throw something into the prize pool. Let me throw something into the prize pool. And I think that, you are running that type of event in that it is not something that prize is the first and foremost thing. It is more about the community building and the event itself.
For sure. Raj was fortunate enough, by kind of strength of personality that he engenders from people, to get a lot of people that reached out and donated to that. I'm not asking for that in any shape or form. If people want to, like, they're totally welcome to. I know that we have some table terrain that was donated towards it that one of our local guys has painted up. We'll have some other things to it.
Nice.
But I just don't want that to be the expectation, to be, very realistic. If you're coming to this, come to take part in a very different type of narrative event. Come to have these, again, 3-hour games in a hotel where you can buy drinks. You can be part of these events that are more about having a team and having those player-on-player interactions with thematic moments in the game than going like 4-1 in winning stuff. Like I want to set expectations very appropriately. And I do have a lot of aspirational goals for this in terms of what I'm trying to create that we'll get into in a second. But I also want to be very clear that, like, I'm going to be trying out a bunch of stuff. Some of this might fall flat on its face. Some of it might not. But I'm also like, I want to have that conversation afterwards. I said a MailChimp or straw poll. Like, I want to reach out to people afterwards, just be like, hey, what really worked for you? What didn't? Because we want to do something every year. And people like you and I want to collaborate afterwards and just be like, oh, so how'd that go? Like, what went really well? What do you think I should adopt? What would you guard against? Those types of conversations.
Right. The only way, I was going to say the only way that the event is actually going to evolve is if you get that sort of feedback.
Yeah, and I know that some people really like being kind of like early adopters in the thing where they enjoy being part of that creative process where you're building something new and they like giving back to it. But it is something that it won't be perfectly refined yet. I'm hopeful. I've played 5 years of Infinity now. You know what I mean? So I feel like that with D&D, I feel like I've got an idea of what I should do and what I shouldn't, what's going to be a problem, what isn't, but you never know. And if there is one thing that I've learned from life, sometimes things work out that you don't think they should work out. Some things, problems just crop up, and you would have never thought it would have been a problem. Did you want to revisit the D&D question?
Yeah, that's a perfect segue into this. So you've played a lot of D&D, and you've played 5 years of Infinity, and I know from my point of view, playing Infinity does have that very cinematic feel. I can remember several games where the lone Udbot of my Ayla force is trying to run across the battlefield and is dodging bullets and getting to the guy only to fail the whip check to bring him back up. And it's that cinematic aspect that you can tell, in my opinion, you can really tell that Corvus Belli developed this from an role-playing game, an RPG sort of backbone. And so
Yep.
when you talk about your experience with pen and paper games, what exactly are you talking about?
Sure. So when I say pen and paper, I do mean things like Dungeons and Dragons. I've played that, played some Star Wars components, done some other things like that. Um, where I think it's important for this is more just to say that I really enjoy that type of robust storytelling. I think those moments with your opponent are very interesting, but also in terms of, I think there's generally two ways of DMing or running a game for people, or being a game master, however you want to say it. One is that you create a path, and you know that your players are at point A and you need to get them to point B. And here are the triggers that they can go on to get to point B. And I've never really been a fan of that. I've always much preferred having a sense of a world, and then your players are in that world, and you have an idea of the other things outside of them, the non-player characters that are in that world, and what their agendas are. But what the players do, they can kind of go anywhere. It's a real sandbox thing. So
Right. So it's more of a geopolitical aspect. You're in Minnesota, I'm in Kansas. The two of us are talking through internet, but we are also very aware and cognizant of world events, right? That we have no sort of true pull on. And I think that is one of the things that has really lent weight to the D&D games that I've run. And that here is the world, the city, the country that you're in, but there is also these other traders that are coming from across the sea. And I think that lends itself to the aspect that you're talking about of the robust story element.
yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable with your anti-immigration policies that you're espousing here, but I'll let the rest slide.
Whatever, man.
Generally, I think that's 100% accurate. So to give an example, I don't want what I don't necessarily want you to feel like would be happening in this narrative is that I give you a mission and you have to go blow up a thing. You go plant each other's thing and blow it up. And I need you to do that so that something else can fall so that the story can present. Instead, I have an idea in this on this world or ship or whatever the environment is, where there's a whole ton of backstory, and each team is going to have roughly what their agenda is. You've got guys like Pano that we know what they want, we know what Eugene wants, et cetera, right? So what they do on each table will reflect how successful they are or the things they come to understand, which will unlock other things. And I say the things they come to understand because I've never really been a fan of like force feeding narrative. Like you
Right, the
finish a
railroad.
yeah, you get that like the monologue dump
There
or
is no save
dialogue,
from the box text. Yeah.
yeah, or exposition, last time, blah blah blah. If you don't want to engage with the story and you just want to loosely do elements, like that's totally fine. Just do the missions, whatever. But what I am going to try and do in terms of some of the story and some of the narrative is that, let's say in your basic Infinity game where you have an objective and you have to go and you have to use an engineer or a specialist or whatever to do a whip roll on the objective.
Okay.
So in the back of our mind, we know that it's like, oh, my engineer's going up and he's using his engineer skills to, open the fuse box and he's like pulling out this and doing this, blah, blah, whatever. Like we kind of know, we kind of think, oh, it's just specialist role. So if there's a mission and the mission, among other things, has you have a hacker and he's trying to get to an array and he's doing blank, if he succeeds, you'll get that, okay, you succeeded. There's going to be a mission card associated with it. And then on that, there will be flavor text or story text that will give you an idea of what that actually meant for you, some of the story. Now, accomplishing objectives outside of giving you, say, one OP, and I really want to de-emphasize the idea of winning and losing versus your opponent. There won't be, let's say, a winner's bracket and a loser's bracket. There won't be the guy that wins it or the team that wins this all had the most wins. I really want it to be much different than that, and basically be, here's how the story was affected by the teams. Here's where they were successful, where they failed. Like, this is kind of how it broke down. So it's an emphasizing of the elements of play and less on that, like, I beat you, so therefore I got this.
So if I'm understanding you right, what you're really saying is I interacted with the story and the story interacted with me in this manner. Because I got this card, because my engineer was able to, find that one microchip in the array, I was able to interact with the story. And that's really the driving point that you want to make in your event.
Yeah. I'm afraid that on some of this stuff, like I go very non-specific sometimes on.
Oh, right. Yeah, you have to be vague because, it's still going to be, the time between now and Renegade when you're actually, ironing out the details of how the system's going to work.
Well, I also want to, let me give you some specific examples, what I was going to say,
Okay.
because I don't want to give you, by my job, I tend to speak sometimes vaguely, and that's because I like to give you a general idea of what I'm trying to do and then show you specific examples